One. Welcome back, everyone. And no, that is not a mirage. You see a third screen here. We have our friend of the podcast, James, and a fellow West Point grad. I can say fellow now that I'm done with the place.
Yeah, congratulations, man.
Thank
How
you,
does it
thank
feel?
you. I think it hasn't hit me yet. I think it'll hit me once I head to Bullock and stuff. But
Yeah, it's a totally different feeling when you like get out of work and you can decide what you want to do with your life. It's very freeing. You're
I'm
gonna enjoy it.
excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm gonna get back into Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. I
Oh,
mean, it'll be
yeah.
fun.
It's
But we're joined by James as well. And of course, as always, Marshall. Marshall, you have any opening statements? I'll hand the floor over to you guys before we start with our topic.
Like I'll just say quickly, I know we only get a few viewers usually, but last time we had James on, we had that one viewer that we had, man. They're over here fact checking in the comments. They're over here coming at our throats like that. Look, if that person dares to show their face in the comments again, I better be a nice message or I'm gonna track you down. I'm gonna track your IP like I'm some 7-year-old on Call of Duty. Okay. I'm coming to your house and I'm gonna do things to your mom. Okay. So look, I don't want to hear that again. I don't want to hear that garbage again. All right.
Where I want to see this now. You guys have to show me all these comments.
Yeah, I mean, last time it was funny because we were talking about like the TV contracts, right?
Oh yeah.
And based on one of us said like the contract was like X amount of dollars or something, and this person's like, "Oh yeah, you're off by like $3," and then they just like kind of went off a little bit. I'm like, whatever. It's funny though.
Yeah. I assume we're gonna get. I did do a little bit of research. I assume we're gonna get into a little bit of TV contract talk because we will be talking conferences. But everything that we'll be talking about, I think generally is not public. So we'll have to speak in more generalities this time, but we'll see where it leads us.
Great. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited for this. So pretty much we've been like in discussions just about this particular episode for a while, but I guess the can was sort of kicked yesterday when should we leave this Twitter account anonymous, James, or
it's the official Army recruiting page.
I was talking about the Navy account that.
Oh yeah, no, let's not like try to.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not trying to like direct any fire towards him. He made some good points.
That doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah, he made some great points. But the Army recruiting page posted a graphic about all the Power 5 games that Army's gonna play in the coming years, and in writing below, they had Army in all caps and Air Force and Navy in lowercase with the amount of Power 5 games they've played since, I think it was it since Navy joined the American? Because that would have been a convenient way to frame that argument.
Probably. I think it was 20. I think it was a little bit after. I could be wrong. I think it was 2016, and then it was all the way through 2024. So I'm not. I think they joined. I think they were part of the American before 2016.
Yeah, 2015.
2015. Yeah. So, but yes, convenient. And we can talk a little bit about some of the fair points that I think were made on both sides. But yeah, it was, I forget the exact numbers, but Army was playing more Power 5 games and things like that. And so it's a recruiting page, right? So they're trying to get kids interested in, hey, come here, you'll get to play in these awesome games. And the argument from the other side is, Navy plays in meaningful games all year long. Like, we get to have conference games that matter late in the year, and Army's playing like Bucknell to prep for Navy, which fine, fair enough. But going forward, that's not necessarily the case. Like this year, our game before Navy is at Liberty. So if you don't think that a probably the two most powerful independents other than non-Power 5 independents other than maybe BYU there's going to be a heavy hitting matchup in Virginia right before Army Navy. So that's not necessarily the case every year. It hasn't been the last couple of years, but it doesn't mean it's going to be that going forward. And then the other thing is there's just sort of I think a fundamental disagreement on what high school seniors and recruits are going to find interesting. Is it getting to play in meaningful games in November, in late November? Okay, that might be interesting to some high school recruits. And you know what? If a Navy page's job is to accurately represent Navy, fine, then you can go ahead and do that, and fair enough. But what Navy's not doing is going into Norman and going into Ann Arbor and going into This year we're going to be at Camp Randall, and then we'll be at Tiger Stadium. We'll be at Neyland Stadium, and not to scoff at the other Power Five opponents, but we sort of have one marquee matchup like that a year, and so even other schools that go and play Power Five opponents as cupcake games generally do it in their own area. Army's doing it all over the country, and they're not being overlooked when they're doing it, and that's super interesting. And I think that that's very attractive to a lot of recruits, and the Army recruiting page is trying to show that. So,
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, I do agree that these are big venues that the Army's playing, but it's sort of like to what ends? Is it a birth like Navy? Like we can all agree that the path to the New Year's Six pretty much runs through the American. And there's been at least three seasons where Navy's had a chance at the New Year's Six, and I mean you can point to those, those seasons and those meaningful
I would say
games.
Navy's had 1 year where they were a serious contender for the New Year's Six, and it was 2015. Was that the year where they were like going into the AAC championship? If they won that year, they were going to the Peach Bowl. And then if they, but they lost, and then they lost to Army, and then they lost their bowl game to La Tech. So I forget exactly the mechanisms, but I don't know that other than maybe 1 year when you had a Keenan Reynolds, right? You had one of the greatest football athletes to ever play football at the academies, and generational player. Are you ever going to get somebody else like him? And do you honestly see Navy being competitive for a Peach Bowl in the next 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5? Which gets more into conference talk, but
Yeah, like I mean, I will say this, like, you mentioned generational athletes. I mean, we saw Malcolm Perry run for 2,000 at quarterback, like 4 years after Keenan, and even then, I mean, call this a hot take. I think Xavier Arline, and again, this isn't conference talk, but I'm going to shift away from this. But I think Xavier Arline shows flashes of Malcolm Perry, same build, same type of player, but hopefully he doesn't.
We'll get a little bit more into Navy's offense when we talk conferences. So remind me to bring that back up. But I have my reservations about. I don't think it was just Keenan Reynolds who was making that offense work, and I don't think it's going to take one individual. It won't just be a generational player. I don't think that Malcolm Perry or Xavier Arline are in the same conversation as Keenan Reynolds, and even if they were, I'm not sure that it would matter because of the rest of the offense. But we could talk about that later.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, but so yeah, I mean, I will say this: like there are the American. I guess it's like rotational, in terms of who contends. Like early on, you had let's see, like Houston. Yeah, you had Houston early on in the conference's history, contending for the New Year's Six. Then you had UCF, of course, and then Memphis, and now Cincinnati. So it's rotational. So, I mean, I do think it would be I wouldn't say easier, but not out of the realm of possibilities for Navy to make a run in the New Year's Six.
Yeah.
And especially too, their yearly game against Notre Dame helps them because like right there, that's a brand name victory and potentially a ranked victory like almost every year. How many times have they
won the Notre Dame game while in the American? Once?
Yeah, just once. Yeah, I mean, yeah, good point, of course. And then, well, I guess getting back to Army, what we talked about yesterday is that like the end game. It's like, what are we really playing for? Yeah, the Independence Bowl is cool, but you got a 6-6. Arizona State team or Arizona. I'll pick on Arizona. I won't pick on Marshall's alma mater. You'll get a 6-6 Arizona team. And I mean the Pac-12 was cool.
Like, I'm just saying preseason. What was that ranking? Like 17, 18? That's nice.
Hey, that's big game boomers, man. He's a hot take machine. He's a hot take machine.
I think he ranked Tuscaloosa as a worse college drinking town than an app like Navy. So I'm not sure about Boomer's picks on that one, but we'll see.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, like I mean the end game, like not to pick on the Pac-12 or anything, like those games aren't really huge games. Like the Independence Bowl this year, it's on the opening Saturday of bowl season. Like it gets forgotten, tossed aside. And then in other years, like the Armed Forces Bowl and ESPN Bowl, I mean, it's like what's the end game? So I mean, yesterday I suggested the MAC, and you can still schedule like the same like sort of scheduling footprint that Army has right now. Like they schedule their fair share of MAC schools, and I mean there'll be like strong teams too. Like Buffalo looks like they're coming on as a program if you put Army in the MAC East. And then as well, you can have your two like high profile games. You can have like the Michigans, the Wisconsins, the LSU for one game, and then like of course your Wake Forest, Dukes, Vanderbilts as well. And still sort of follow like the same scheduling model. I really don't think much is lost with the MAC. I mean, it's just sort of like the end game. Still, you're going to the same types of bowls, the ESPN bowls, but there's that added caveat of the New Year's Six at the end.
Yeah. So I'll walk through what you said. So first of all, I don't know that I buy the rotational argument in the AAC. I think that you're right. Early on, it was Temple and Houston, and then it was UCF, and now it's Cincinnati. And what we're seeing is that what makes a good AAC coach or a good AAC team is a really, really good coach. And as coaches have left, we've seen turnover, right? And I'm not sure that we're going to see that same turnover because I'm not convinced that Luke Fickell is going to leave Cincinnati. He was the Ohio State head coach. Nobody saw him as a big time head coach. Cincinnati's paying him a decent amount. He's got a super stable job. He's, used to Ohio. He recruits in Ohio well. So I don't see Luke Fickell leaving. I don't see Cincinnati being the team every year for the next 15 years, but I don't necessarily see as much turnover because he's going to be a coach for a while. And if you're saying that Navy can get in on that rotation, that might be fine, but then you have to believe that Niumatalolo is the one to do it. And he's had, I don't know how many years and he's been successful record wise in the AAC, but he hasn't, he lost one championship game and then at the end of a disappointing season and that was it. So that remains to be seen. The jury's still out on Navy in the AAC. But let's set that aside. Army and the MAC. So you're right. Part of the question is, what are we playing for? Mike Buddy has done a phenomenal job with some of these bowl agreements. I think the Independence Bowl was great for this year, but the Liberty Bowl was great for last year. The Independence Bowl is a good pickup, and now he's got a tie-in for the Duke's Mayo Bowl, which is a massive payout. A much bigger bowl and I think it's ACC, and then the other one rotates between Big Ten and somebody else. I forget, but if they ever can't fill a spot, Army goes in. So that's a great goal. That's a bigger bowl than any other service academy is going to go to. Hold a COVID year or something crazy like
Fenway
that.
Bowl.
What's
biggest
that?
bowl in the game, the Fenway
the
Bowl.
Fenway Bowl, yeah. But I think there's a great goal there. And then it becomes, okay, well, what are you getting out of, in other words, why would an Army fan want to join the MAC? And I assume that you would say, along with most, it's the path to the New Year's Six, or if after expansion, potentially the expanded playoff. The question is a chance at that worth giving up what Army has? And if we're talking about the, and then you have to ask, sort of both sides of that. So how often would Army be competing for New Year's Six, right? Navy's done it once seriously. They've been an outsider in the conversation a couple of times, but not really. And moving forward, I'm not convinced they're going to be a contender anytime relatively soon. So is it really working out for them? Jury's kind of still out. So I don't want to jump full force into a conference saying it's working, right? Air Force has been a member of a conference for how long?
Since the wax inception,
right?
In the 60s.
And okay, so after modern, after in the college football playoff era, have they ever been a contender?
No.
Right. So the jury's in on Air Force, I think, and the jury is still out on Navy. But we'll see. I mean, then it becomes, all right, MAC wise, Army's got a CBS deal. I bet you more people are watching Army games than are watching Kent State games. So you're now giving up part of your TV money for a chance at a New Year's Six Bowl once every how many years? So that's a lot to give up for something that the jury is still out on in a conference that even if you go undefeated, you're not guaranteed to go to a New Year's Six. I mean, Western Michigan went in a special year where the AAC was kind of down. And I'm not like, if Ball State went undefeated this year and Cincinnati had 2 losses, I'm not convinced that Ball State would go.
Wow. Ball State plays Penn State this year. I will say that.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah.
Or if Buffalo or anybody, like if any MAC team, like an undefeated MAC team is not guaranteed to go over a 1 or 2 loss American team.
That's true. Go ahead, Marshall.
In terms of contracts, though, like who's to say that they don't get, a little bigger share of the contract, like a little Boise State action?
I mean, so maybe, but that would require the MAC really wanting Army, and I don't think that they do. I mean, the MAC's got an even number of teams, and in order to get Army, you'd have to pick up UMass or UConn, and that's not something that I think that they want to do. If there's an outside shot, they could potentially pick up Liberty. I'm not sure that that's what they want to do. But the whole reason that the Mountain West gave Boise that action was because Boise was their TV contract, right? Army's not going to be like a Boise to the Mountain West. At least I don't imagine. That'd be great. But I don't think that's the case. So I don't think that desire is there. There's also that Boise was already in the Mountain West, whereas Army isn't in the MAC. I just don't see that desire being there to give them a bigger cut of the pie.
Yeah, that's a good question, Marshall. I mean, and another case is Navy, of course, as well, because Navy has kept their CBS Sports Network contract. All their home games are on CBS Sports Network still.
Yeah, but
so I can see a similar thing working out.
Money. Like that, Navy doesn't keep that money. Okay. That all goes, it gets distributed just like any other TV contract money. So.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't aware. I thought they kept that.
And they also give up their Army and Navy money to be in the AAC, right? So they decided that that's the way to do it. But and again, jury's still out. But I mean, does Army want to give up their half of the Army Navy game to the MAC? Like,
that's a fair point. Well, you brought up UConn and UMass, and I think that's a practical idea there to add. If you're going to add Army, add UConn as well. National brand 2010 Fiesta Bowl participant UConn, to sort of get like that northeastern footprint, because you'll have Buffalo, you'll have West Point, and then you'll have UConn, sort of like Buffalo market, and then the New York City market. And then what's to say the MAC can benefit from that? Like, I mean, what's to say that the MAC moves their title game to MetLife one year? Because there's almost no meaningful college football happening at that time in the Northeast.
Correct. And really, there's no meaningful college football that goes on in the Northeast outside of if Syracuse happens to have a good year or if Army is nationally ranked, right? So our podcast over at As for Football did an interview with Mike Buddy, the AD in Army, and one of the things that he's very clearly working on is a really strong tie to New York City and really trying to make Army football New York City's college football team. Because New York City's college football team right now is FCS, right? So if they want big time football, they got to come at least to Mikey Stadium, and Mike Buddy's trying to make that happen. So I think once that starts to take place, once you start seeing corporate boxes in the East Side Stands project being sold to businesses in New York, you'll see booze cruises coming up the Hudson River. You'll have buses coming up for corporate retreats, things like that. Once that starts to happen and that relationship is there, then it's something that the MAC might want to capitalize on. But that's not the case now. And I don't think that that the MAC is super desirable of Orange County, New York.
Beautiful place to live. I mean,
it is.
Hudson's nice. I mean,
the other sort of conference joining issue, which is more of a practical one and less of an ideological one, is that according to Mike Buddy, Army's schedule is booked solid through 2036. So that would be a lot of contracts that they would have to walk back. So,
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. So yeah, I mean, I guess we've talked through this the whole conference thing as well. I mean, and for me, like, seeing the emergence of Army football. I mean, just like over time, especially the 2018 team won I'm guessing the final Lambert Trophy because they haven't awarded the Lambert Trophy
So
since.
I'm not allowed to talk about this to a certain extent, but I would tell you what I can tell you. I have contacted people at I don't know if how they say it, ECAC, Eastern Collegiate Athletic Conference, which is a shell of its former self, but still does a lot of good. And the main guy who was in charge of awarding the Lambert Trophy passed away. And they are continuing and figuring out how to continue the Lambert Trophy. They have not yet announced the awards for this year, because they don't only do FBS, they also do FCS, D2, and D3. They have not announced the awards for this year, but what we do know they're also going to retroactively award last year's awards and trophies, which is not public yet. And then the only thing that we do know is that Army did win it last year in the 2020 season. And we know that because we've seen it in Munkins talked about it, and it's been in the locker room videos and things like that. So
I thought it was over, honestly, because like again, like you said, Northwestern football is a shell of itself. And I thought like we were kind of like the only good team in the Northeast.
So
definitely not UMass.
so they were not considered last year, and I'm not clear exactly why they weren't considered. But Liberty was not considered for the trophy last year. Had they been considered, they likely would have won. But going forward, I have been told they will be considered.
Okay, that's interesting because what I remember is all those Big East teams, like West Virginia, who else was like in the southern part, like South Florida, and all those other schools were considered as long as they were in the Big East. And like Liberty only played in terms of like a Northeastern schedule. They only played like UMass. And
so
I mean that's
so
really
there
it.
The way that it worked most recently is there are a series of protected states, and I believe it's Virginia and everything on the coast, Virginia going north. I'm not sure about West Virginia, and then Pennsylvania, and then I believe all of New England as well. And those, if you play your home games in that state, you are eligible. And then the Big East rule, the most recent iteration of the Big East rule, was if you were in the Big East and you play more than half of your games, or actually not at least half of your games against schools in those states, which a Big East schedule almost guaranteed, then you were eligible for the trophy. But like if Miami, for example, only played 5 schools from those states in any given year, then they weren't eligible.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad Lambert Trophy's back.
Yes, so am I.
Really, I am.
It's a great trophy, yeah.
It is,
and it's a cool looking trophy. Like there are so many trophies nowadays. Like I hate the playoff trophy. It's just I think it's just it looks like a fake Lombardi trophy. The Lambert Trophy is a cool looking trophy.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I mean, you can't sleep on the civil conflict trophy. UCF,
hey,
UConn,
can we throw some respect to the $5 bits of broken chair trophy?
I was about to mention that one.
It's to get some respect.
But Marshall, I want to throw you in here in this discussion. You have any thoughts on like TV contracts, Army joining the MAC, even like Conference USA, if Conference USA wants to increase their sprawl even more, or really anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you guys mentioned earlier. I think a big important piece of the Army schedule is having that one-off game at the Power 5 opponent. You mentioned Camp Randall this year, and it's like I just think back to like anytime you look at any non-Power 5 teams Instagram account, right? You start going through those players' Instagrams. What are they posting? They'll post when they score. They'll post, maybe some practice highlights or something. But when else are they posting? They're posting flexing in those big time stadiums. Those kids, they love to go to those big time stadiums, man. If you go to a conference, you can't eliminate those big time games. Even if you're playing, at the 10 a.m. slot on like a Sunday or just some garbage slot, right? Even if you're playing some garbage slot, that means a lot to those players. And I think if you want to have a powerful shot at attracting recruits, you got to keep that incentive there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the advantage that I think Army has, I mean, I'll have a question for you, Omar. Like, what other team goes to the amount of different locations that Army goes to play those Power 5 opponents?
I mean, I can't really like tell you like right off the bat, but I mean, I know like like people go anywhere to get their bag, like to
Yeah,
get their bag or beat
I don't
down.
know, man. Like most teams stay pretty regional. You don't hear of, you know, say, like when Munkin was at not Georgia Southern. He went to Florida, knocked him off in Florida, right? He wasn't going to Wisconsin, right? So Troy isn't going to play UCLA in the Rose Bowl, right? I don't know if we have them on the future schedule, but it wouldn't surprise me if that happened, right? Army goes all over the country and plays in different venues. And that's one thing is you can be guaranteed as a player, right? I'm going to get to play in 4 really cool big time venues, like historic venues.
But Navy has touchdown Jesus every other year. They got
No,
good to play in Rudy.
good luck. We'll see him in the Shamrock Series at some other historic venue. I've seen Army Notre Dame once Shamrock Series at Yankee Stadium. That was the only Shamrock Series. And I also saw, by the way, like I'm not just saying all this stuff about Navy, like not know, like I've been to plenty of Navy football games. I watched plenty of Navy football. I was at you talk about a streak ending. I was at the 44-year streak ending at Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend when Navy finally broke that. So, um, yes, it's a big time game, but it's the same big time game every other year.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's true, but like Navy's been changing up the venues, and like that's like
Yeah. You get
as
to go
much
to
as I'll close, like
Ireland. I guess Jacksonville's cool.
San Diego, Qualcomm.
They coming to San Diego.
Yeah, 2018 with like that
Yeah,
Navy
you're
team.
right. Yeah.
I got a prime time slot for some reason.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess NFL stadiums are cool. I prefer college stadiums, but
Yeah, yeah. But
they have more character. They're not just corporate. I mean, I saw Army play out in San Jose. What's that stadium? Levi's.
Levi's, yeah.
We played San Jose State. I hated every second of it. And Army won the game like 50-3. I still hated every second of it.
That's a hot take right there. You hated every second of it.
Like it wasn't fun to watch. It was a blowout. Army scored like 4 touchdowns off of fumbles in the second half.
That's
Actually,
electric.
it was in the first half. It's electric the first time it happens, and in the second, third, and fourth, you're like, all right, we've seen this play before. And it was in a stadium with no character. Like there's an NFL stadium. It felt like you were just there to, be another stop at the turnstile. Like
it's like when you go to like a high school basketball game and it's halftime and the teams go off and then the little kids come on and start shooting around.
I mean, no, but honestly, like, where would you rather go watch a game? Like, pick other than say hold 4 NFL stadiums, right? So like Soldier Field, Green Bay. Are there any other big time NFL stadiums that are like historic?
Well, I was gonna say Oakland Coliseum, but I forgot the Raiders aren't open anymore.
Like, I would much rather go see like I'd rather see Kent State play at home or Toledo play at home, where like the fans are into it. It's an electric crowd. It's built for the college. It's built for the fans. It's not built to just get as many people through the door as possible. Like it has character. It's not just a corporate,
No, I'm with you.
I want college football to stay in college football stadiums. I don't want to stay the hell out of baseball stadiums.
Oh man! Oh no!
I don't know if we can start that.
All right, we just got to add an hour to this Zoom right here.
Right.
Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah, no. I for one am a huge ballpark football fan. I plan on going to the Fenway Bowl every single year I can.
I enjoy seeing college football in historic settings. So like Fenway would be cool. What I can't stand is I'll be going to Army Air Force in Dallas in Arlington this year at the Globe Life Field. And as an Army fan, you have to pick between sitting in the Air Force section, sitting in the end zone, or sitting 60 yards offset from the field. So it's, it just kind of stinks. And if it's a bowl game, it's a little bit different because fans get mixed. It's, I'm okay with that. But for a yearly game like that, a rivalry game, and I don't think it's going to continue after the 2-year contract they signed, because it sounds like Air Force's side can't sell tickets.
Ooh, hey, I mean that's fair. I mean, I think it's a fair point, but like for me, like it depends on the ballpark. Like it's great, like looking, the field alignment. Looking like I went to a high school game at Fenway in 2017, and I was sitting. The field was like laid in front of the Green Monster. It was a beautiful view. Went to Princeton. I got Princeton Dartmouth 2019, and sat behind home plate, overlooking the teams going towards Monument Park. I mean, Globe Life.
Wait, Princeton and Dartmouth played where?
Yankee Stadium. That was the sesquicentennial game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was the real game of the century that day, not Alabama LSU. I just want to clear that up.
Correct.
Both teams were undefeated, but yeah, like it just depends. Like Globe Life Field or Park, whatever the heck it's called nowadays. I don't know if it's a field or park. Like,
well, they just built the new one. It's Globe Life Field, I think, is the new one.
Globe Life Field. It's like kind of plain. It's like your RoboCop like field nowadays.
It's not a historic venue. Like it means nothing to me. Like getting to watch a college football game, like Harvard, Yale, they played at Fenway one year. Like that's cool. Like you see the Green Monster, you're playing. That's a historic game in a historic venue. I'm totally cool with that. As an Army fan, I don't want to watch the triple option from 60 yards away. That doesn't interest me at all.
I mean, it's like those like high like film cuts. So you see everything. You see the linemen. You can really get into it.
I generally like when before I graduated, my parents got season tickets to Army, and the tickets they got were 50-yard line all the way up right underneath the press box, which was the best way to see the option. But you were like on the field, so it was closer to bird's eye. Now you're high up, but you're super far away. You're watching ants play on the field. So
yeah, and I mean on that corporate track too. I mean, it's like Omar. We went over to that Cheez-It Bowl there at Chase Field in Phoenix.
Ugh.
I will say it's like the Cheez-It taco. I think was something to remember, but beyond that, it was a little bit forgetful.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just for a yearly rivalry. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. This year seems to be the year of ballpark football. I mean, you got Northwestern Illinois in Wrigley, and then you got Holy Cross Colgate at the most expensive minor league ballpark ever built in my old hometown of Worcester, Massachusetts, Polar Park. So should be an exciting year. But I want to go to that point you mentioned about the option, like about it being more than, I guess, a problem with the solution being more than a quarterback. Because like Marshall and I did a podcast in the fall about how anemic their offense was early on in the year, and it was the worst offense they'd had.
You talk about Navy?
Yeah, I'm talking about like this year, like early on
all year long. Yeah. I mean, I think I looked prior to the Army Navy game, so this does not include the Army Navy game. But I looked up just for my personal account and the As for Football account, they had fewer than 100 yards rushing. It was like under 300 yards rushing throughout the season by their quarterbacks. I mean, it was really bad. And some of it early in the year you can attribute to like the practicing without tackling or contact or whatever. But so this gets into the whole, is the Navy experiment in the AAC working? As I said, Jerry's still out. Part of the problem with the way that Navy runs the triple option is they're super quarterback centric. So Malcolm Perry led a Navy team to whatever they were, 9-3, 10-2 before the bowl or whatever it was. I forget their overall record 2 years ago. But it just seemed like every time I watch a Navy game, it was Malcolm Perry bailing out the offense. Like their fullback would pick up 2 yards. They'd go to the outside and the guy wouldn't pick up anything. And then on a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, it would be a broken play and Malcolm Perry would end up 2 yards past the line of scrimmage. Right. So it certainly wasn't by design. He was really good, but nobody around him was making as much of an impact as, say, the surrounding cast in the Keenan days. I mean, we all remember Keenan for all of his touchdowns. Compared to the amount of touchdowns he had, he did not have a lot of yards. He was a touchdown vulture. The fullback would pick up like 60 yards on a run, end up on the 1 or 2 yard line, and then Keenan would run it in, right? So, like, don't get me wrong, very impressive athlete, generational talent, but touchdown vulture, right? His stats were padded when it came to touchdowns. And he had really good fullbacks and really good A-backs that picked up a lot of yards for those teams. The last 2 years for Navy, the number one offensive player returning has joined the transfer portal. Last year, it was Perry Olson, was the guy that I was most scared of. And this year, it was, what's his name?
Jamel
Yeah,
Carruthers.
Jamel Carruthers. They enter the transfer portal for whatever personal reasons they have. I'm not trying to get on anyone for that, but like, as an Army fan, the single offensive player I was most afraid of going into the season will be gone before the Army game. So, I mean, our line shows flashes. Yes. He's fast. He had that one run the 2 runs really, but the one really good run in the Army Navy game this year to put him on the 4-yard line or 3-yard line in the first drive of the second half. But it wasn't Malcolm Perry level. Like, he wasn't evading defenders in a crazy way. Like, he had a seam and he executed the seam really well and he got a long run out of it. Like, it wasn't a crazy read like you'd see out of Perry. Or a crazy read for a run or a crazy option read like you'd see out of Keenan or something. So we'll see, but I just don't see the supporting cast there. I don't see the O-line there. They don't have a fullback that I'm afraid of. They don't have an A-back that I'm afraid of. And not to say that Army's offensive line is fantastic, but they have A-backs, B-backs, and quarterbacks to be scared of. They have almost everyone is returning except for one backup B-back. So, we'll see if it works. I think that joining the conference is generally a good idea for Navy, but we'll see if it continues to work. And by the way, we talk about the MAC, Army joining the MAC. Like, the American has a spot open, right? I just don't think that Navy would allow Army to join the American. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the ACC doesn't have anything to gain out of it. So I think Army's staying independent for a while.
WAC's coming back though.
What's that? The WAC.
The WAC.
Army to the WAC. That should be your, like, I know you change your Twitter handle like every 2 months. Your next Twitter handle should be Army to the WAC.
I'll consider it, but I mean, I've heard the quarterback centric argument a lot, and I think this year was like huge evidence for that. Because I mean, no offense to like those quarterbacks in Navy, I think they would have done well in Army system, because you saw like Army had 5 quarterbacks get snaps this year, and there's a 6
quarterback, 5 starters, 6 get snaps.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. I didn't know it was that much. And then a 7th, Jabari Laws, like, hurt in 2019. He's coming back. So there's 7 quarterbacks in the mix. Like,
I
it's
think one of
plug
them,
and play.
One of them graduated. So I think there are like 5 returning guys that they're keeping in the quarterback role. I'm expecting Tyler to be the starter on the first day. I think Cade Ballard might get moved to an A-back tight end role. We'll see, sort of like a heavier A-back role. Because you have Robinson on one side, super skinny, super quick, can take that pitch. But I also think that if you put the fast guy on one side to the left, say, and then you have a beefy guy as the B-back on the right, now you have linebackers and safeties trying to guess whether they need to cover the fast guy or cover the guy who can break tackles. And that just seems like a nightmare for defenses. So that would interest me a lot too.
I'll be honest, like, looking at Navy system, I don't think a guy like Jaden Daniels, Arizona State, would be able to do well in that system. I mean, Marshall can correct me on this, but I mean, I just don't think he'd be able to.
I don't think that's the beauty of Army's system, is it's very center. Like it's fullback and dive. It's fullback dive and also quarterback dive, because they do a lot of that too, where they'll just fake the fullback dive and follow them. But it's up the middle, right? That's where it's focused. We establish up the middle, and then we beat you on the outside when you're not ready for it. Navy's the opposite. They try to pick up on the outside a lot more than they do up the middle. And when they had good fullbacks to bail them out, that was awesome. But now they don't, because their number one fullback isn't returning. So we'll see. I will say, like you said, I won't say every. Not their starter for the year, not the throwing quarterback they had, but the other 2, Tiger and Arline. I think could both excel in Army's offensive scheme. I think that maybe one of Army's quarterbacks could excel in Navy's offensive scheme, which like their scheme might be better, more efficient if you have the right personnel, but it takes a lot to have the right personnel. And they haven't had, they had one good year with Malcolm Perry out of his 3, and they had Keenan Reynolds in recent history. And that's been it. And other years they haven't been good.
I mean that's a good point. I do agree, and yeah, I think it's interesting. Like you mentioned, like Navy quarterbacks and their application in Army system. I want to imagine like Zach Abey in Army system because he was
Zach
another
Abey,
touchdown vulture. Like
he was he's a touchdown vulture, but he was a beefy dude. Like I don't know why they keep going to these skinny quarterbacks in Army system. I'd prefer a beefy guy. I just want a bruiser because I don't think our O-line's good enough for a non-bruiser, but that's just a personal opinion. Like, could you imagine Zach Abey like following a fullback up the middle? Like, imagine being a linebacker and watching a fullback come up the middle, try to block you, and then you have Zach Abey behind him that you got to try to tackle. I mean, that's what Ahmad Bradshaw was, right? Abey was probably a little bigger than Bradshaw, but Bradshaw was tough as nails, and that's what it was. I mean, you just couldn't tackle the guy because there was a beefier dude or two in front of him. So, but I don't know. I think that you're right. Army system is plug and play, and that gives them that gives them a huge advantage year to year. I think there's a reason why Army's won, 4 of the last 5 Army Navy games, 3 of the last 4 Commanders and Chiefs. Like, are you going to be the best Service Academy team in history by running it? No. But are you going to be the best year over year over year? I think so, because you can take any personnel and just put it in.
I agree, and I think it's a good note to close on.
Yeah.
There's any final thoughts, Marshall, James?
No, I'm all good.
Yeah. Nothing else. Just we're at Ask for Football, and as I said, I told you, we do a roundtable podcast over, starting a roundtable podcast over there, where it's basically, hey, it's Thursday, it's Friday, whenever we're going to release it. I don't know if the schedule is quite hammered out yet, but here's as Army fans, as fans of college football, here's what we're watching this weekend. Here's what we think about it. We're not offering a lot of opinion. We're reporting the news and just kind of saying, here's what we're interested in this weekend. Here are our picks. Here's, if you want to, follow along, come join us. So we'd love to have you on as a guest for there, and let us hear your picks and hear what makes you tick on Saturdays in the fall.
Oh, Ivy League and Patriot League. Only two leagues. Only 2 leagues I mess with.
Man, I won't say they're the best football, but they're fun to watch.
It's the history. They're the history majors leagues. That's what they are.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know how, like they started televising it a couple years ago, that Coast Guard Merchant Marine Academy.
Oh
game.
yeah, that's right.
A lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, so. That was this year. That was a result of the pandemic. That one like snuck onto ESPN3 this year.
Yeah, I think they televised it a couple years ago, like not on the internet, on like an actual channel, maybe ESPNU or something like that. But it was a weekday game. But yeah, that was a fun game to watch. I mean, it's kind of like mini Army Navy. Yeah, and it's earlier in the season, so it gets you revved up for the big game.
I will say this, I guess, to close. I would love to see, like, now that you say that, like a pretty much like 3-way block, like a power hour of like Air Force, Navy / Army. And then next up after that, you got Coast Guard, Merchant Marine. Then after that, you got Citadel, VMI. Just like CBS broadcasting that. Like, could you imagine that?
Just like Military Saturday.
Yeah, Military
on
Saturday.
November 6th, you have like all 3 games lined up. I would. Yeah. I mean, if I weren't going to the game this year, and if they had that, I would be on my couch, like sprinting to pee so that I could watch every second of it.
I mean, hey, CBS, we gave you an idea. I mean, because CBS loves the troops.
Yeah.
But until next time, James, thanks for joining as always. Marshall, see us again. You'll see us again sometime as well. But until next time, peace, love, and soul, everyone.
I look forward to the comments.